What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL preview, and I'm joined by the boys of the Bottom Line View. It's Kevole and Dilly Vanilli. We are here to break down one of the competitors, one of the contenders in the AFC, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have been a contender ever since Ben Roethlisberger has been quarterback for the team, and they've been in the conversation as a Super Bowl caliber team. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they did go through a little bit of change in the offseason. They did draft a quarterback of the future in Mason Rudolph to potentially push Ben Roethlisberger. More on that later. Antonio Brown will have a new rookie in the mix in his receiver core. That's James Washington, who's going to be taking the place of Martavis Bryant. They did go to defense. They did draft Terrell Edmonds, who some considered a little bit of a reach at the safety position. And of course, they're still dealing with the whole Ryan Shazier thing. They signed John Bostic at linebacker, and also they signed Morgan Brunette of the Packers at safety. So those were their big moves for the Steelers. Not a ton like usual, but they do make their small moves here and there in the draft and in free agency. So guys, where do we see the Steelers going this year? Are the Steelers finally going to get back to the Super Bowl and win it, or even get there? Or are they just going to disappoint like most seasons? Let us know.
I mean, every time you look at this offense, you got to look at them and say, hey, they're pretty damn good. Ben Roethlisberger, we've had our comments about Big Ben, but he looks healthy as hell compared to what he usually is in training camp, so congrats to him. Hopefully there's no drama about, am I going to retire mid-season? Mason Rudolph, I actually do like as a backup situation. He's better than Landry Jones. Let's get that out of the way. But I think he could be a quarterback for the future. We'll see how that goes going forward. Le'Veon Bell doesn't look like he's going to be there after this next season, which in terms of future predictions after this year, there's going to be a lot of questions. But in terms of this season, he's going to give a lot of production, especially since he wants a contract somewhere else. This is technically a contract year, so I want to see what he can do. He's one of the best, if not the best, running back in the game. Obviously, he can run the ball well and passes out of the backfield very well. Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the game, so you got arguably the best running back and the best wide receiver in the game on the same team. Juju really produced in year one. I think he can do even better in year two. James Washington, a big fan of this draft pick. I had him at number 3 in my wide receiver class for this year. I think he can be a very solid talent, especially as a deep threat for Mr. Big Ben. Offensive line, very, very solid. I like David Castro, of course, one of the best at the game. Ramon Foster, Villanueva, a lot of good stuff on that offensive line. So pretty set on the offensive position. Defense, not really as sold. I don't think this is a terrible group, but I think this is right around the average form for me. Cameron Hayward, solid, obviously, at the defensive end. John Bostic is a downgrade from Ryan Shazier. I still feel bad for Shazier, but the fact that John Bostic has to replace him, I know the team is not going to be as spirited about that. Bud Dupree's whatever. T.J. Watt obviously contributed a lot in his rookie year. I think he can do so again here in 2018. Their cornerback and safety position, I'm not very high on. Joe Hayden, whatever. Morgan Burnett. Did a good free safety that I think can help, obviously coming from Green Bay. I'm just not really sold, though. There's not a lot of name recognition on this defense, which is weird considering it's the Steelers, and back in the day, that's all they promoted was the defense. So this has become an offensively driven team, and it wins them a lot of games. I mean, let's be honest. This is where they're competitive at. They have a lot of high-scoring games that gets them some of the bigger victories in the NFL, and I think that's going to be a catalyst for them getting a lot of wins. I can see if people are going to take down a win or two because of their defense, and that's fine with me. But I personally have these Pittsburgh Steelers at 13-3. The reason they're second in there because they have a tiebreaker with somebody else that we're going to talk about later on. So they're second in the the AFC for me. I think the offense, you can't deny, is probably one of the best, if not the best in the league. A lot of great talent there. Defensively, a lot of things that I'm kind of skeptical about, but their offense keeps them in games and really shows out when it needs to. So I got them 13-3 and second in the AFC.
Okay, so for those that are new to the Bottom Line View, I'm going to recap what I said basically last year. I didn't have time. I was actually going to put together a compilation. I didn't have time to do that. But basically last year I had the Pittsburgh Steelers losing 31-3 to the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs.
That's fun.
And you laugh, but they did get their ass handed to them in the playoffs last year, did they not?
They did, but it was also the Jaguars who played significantly better defense.
Okay, so I want to let's just have a look at this mighty Pittsburgh Steeler team that you have at 13-3. Many experts have in your top two of the AFC. Let's just look. Yeah, okay, they have the Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and a talented Juju Smith-Schuster and a very talented offense. Not going to dispute that. Defense, of course, is question. Let's remember though what happened when they played Mitch Milani's Pittsburgh New England Patriots last year. They were up for 3 quarters, 24-16, and lost 27-24. Let's go back to that Jacksonville Jaguar game. Yeah, they made a hell of a comeback, but they got obliterated in the first half, 28-14 in the first half. Ended up being a 45-42 game. They allowed 378 yards to Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Which, by the way, is one of my 3 losses. I just want to point that out. That's one of
okay. That's fine. This year, their schedule. Also, let's also talk about a couple of other things that happened last year. If you want to go back and watch some fantastic Bottom Line View footage, listen to Mitch and AC debate a Sunday night game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers, the Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers.
Where I was completely correct. Just throwing that out there.
Goal to win. The only time that they had to rely on a Chris Boswell walk-off win to win last year. That happened quite a bit for a team that you have Dylan has at 13-3. Look at their schedule. They have the Falcons this year. That's a loss. They have the Panthers.
I wouldn't put that as that far of a loss. Like, I wouldn't guarantee that as a
Jaguars,
loss.
Chargers, Patriots, Saints. You know what? There's some teams that they're going to walk into and they're going to have a really good game with. But what the problem is with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and what I've attempted to prove here is when this is a good team or when this is a competitive team, the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't there. They're just not there. They're not in this. I cannot count on the Pittsburgh Steelers to win that game. We make the joke about Andy Reid and the clock management and they can't win the big game. The Pittsburgh Steelers have developed that reputation too, and they can't hold a lead. Their defense isn't clutch at clutch times. I have them at 10-6. Based on a lot on the schedule. It's not that easy of a schedule. Their schedule was much easier last year than it is this year. I have them as the 4th seed, and I have them losing again in the first round of the AFC playoffs.
Didn't talk about Mike Tomlin. I think a big thing about Mike Tomlin is he's a great leader of men. He is a player's coach. He is a motivational player. He is a clapper. But when it comes down to the X's and O's and the situational football, at times Mike Tomlin disappoints, especially on defensive side of the football when he needs to come through with a game plan. And even think back to that Patriots game. You remember the last few plays of that game where they tried that fake spike play at the end of the game and tried to throw it in the end zone. And the thing about that was, while they were going through that whole challenge with Jesse James, Mike Tomlin did not give a play to Ben Roethlisberger. The whole 2-3 minutes that they had on the sidelines was wasted. They did not do anything. So I'm just putting that out there. Mike Tomlin needs to get a little bit more criticism for his job at times. Okay, now going to Randy Fitchner at offensive coordinator. Todd Haley's gone. If you watched our Browns preview, we talked about Todd Haley. Todd Haley, I think, was pretty underrated in terms of his ability to utilize the Steelers' talent and get them open and put them in situations to be successful. Now, obviously, the Steelers have great talent, and I don't think they'll miss him a ton. But that is something to look forward to, is just seeing, and it's intriguing to see how will Fitchner use this offense and run this offense in 2018. Their receivers, I love, Brown and Schuster. I don't think James Washington will be better than Martavis Bryant was last year. I just don't see that happening. He's a rookie. I think that's a big thing to ask. But I think that Schuster will step it up and have a great season. And I think Brown, of course, will have a great season. Their offensive line is very, very good. I would consider it top 5 in the NFL. Tight end is blah. Every year they go through the whole Vance McDonald, Jesse James thing. Ben Roethlisberger, I think, might have his best season he's had in a while because he looks like he's in great condition. He has competition behind him. I think he's more motivated, and I think that's going to bring out a good side in Ben Roethlisberger. So I'm looking forward to seeing Ben this year. My other huge question about this offense is Le'Veon Bell. What is going on with Le'Veon Bell? We saw him at the strip club while training camp is going on. He's not at training camp. What's his seriousness in football right now? Is he going to be prepared to play for the Steelers? Is he even wanting to play for the Steelers? Because if Le'Veon Bell, for whatever reason, is not on the field, they take a significant drop off because, in my opinion, he's their most important player, my opinion. And then, secondly, if he is on the field but is not really into it, he could become a distraction to this team. So there's a lot of questions about Le'Veon Bell because obviously he's had it with the Steelers and he's signing somewhere else as soon as he can. Maybe even the Seahawks next year. I don't know. I've heard it brought up. Then we go to the defensive side of the football. I like the defensive line. I like Tuitt. I like Hayward. Hargrave's pretty underrated. DJ Watt, as Dylan said, I think could take a step up as a pass rusher and player on the outside of this defense this year, and I could see that. John Bostic is not better than Shazier, but he's better than what they had last year. Secondary is interesting. I think Burnett will add something to this defense that they haven't really had, and that's sort of an in-box safety that can sort of play linebacker or safety. Mike Hilton is a pretty good slot corner, but I don't know if Joe Hayden still got it or not, and Artie Burns is okay. Sean Davis is fine. He's a good athlete. Overall, and they have a good kicker, I should bring up. Boswell is a good kicker. Overall, I look at this team, and as Kev brought up, this is a very difficult schedule. In the playoffs, I see them being competitive, but in the regular season, I think that overall they're going to lose a couple more games because of the way they come into games and they just slack off. I don't ever see the Steelers as a team that can really go 14-2, 13-3, because they always lose games that they shouldn't lose. So that being said, I have them at 11-5. I still think the Steelers are a good team, at one of the top teams in the AFC. But when I look at their schedule, they play Atlanta, they play Carolina, they play Jacksonville, they play the Chargers, they play the Broncos in Denver, which is never easy. They play the Raiders in Oakland, they play Patriots, they play the Saints in New Orleans, they play the Bengals, they play the Ravens. So there's some tough games there, and I see them probably dropping some games that they probably shouldn't drop. And I think that there are some distractions on this team which haven't previously been brought to the table when you talk about the Steelers the last couple of years. You look at this schedule and where it gets tough, okay? You got Ravens on the road. Then you play Thursday night against the Panthers at home. Then you play the Jaguars on the road Sunday night. Then you go to the Broncos. Then you go to then you play at home against the Chargers. Then you play in Oakland. Then you play against New England. And then you play in New Orleans. That's a road to hell. That's
tough, my man. The 3 losses that I have personally, if anybody wants to know, is the Jaguars, the Patriots, and the Saints. So week 11, 15, and 16. So in that stretch, I think they'll go 3-3, which is hard to say. But, yeah, those are the 3 games I have them losing.
All right. Let us know what you guys think about the Steelers. Are they going to finally take that final step into the Super Bowl and win it? Are they going to be the AFC's representative, or are they going to fall a little bit more? Are the distractions going to get to them? Or are they just going to be the same team that sort of disappoints in the playoffs when it comes down to it? So let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Also, hit that like button and subscribe for more NFL previews. Peace out.